This tutorial is titled Module Items, a Complete Overview. Please note, if you have not watched the separate video on item creation and image importation, please do so now. We feel that watching that video first will help give you a better understanding of this video tutorial. Toolbar. The first thing I'd like to bring to your attention is the toolbar at the very top of the form. There is a separate video tutorial that covers all aspects of the toolbar. That video tutorial is titled General Toolbar and can be found in the general grouping of these video tutorials on our support website or on our YouTube channel titled WardrobeTools Software and Services. The first tab of this toolbar is the primary tab and is the same on all toolbars throughout our applications. The tabs that follow the primary tab can vary greatly from application to application, module to module, and screen to screen. Housed within these secondary tabs are predefined buttons that perform functions that you generally need access to on a day-to-day basis. Immediately below the toolbar is the form's tab object. It will generally have a number of tabs and an occasional sub-tab object within a given tab. Tabs help to categorize and organize various features and processes of each module based on their level of importance. Let's start by reviewing the tab About, found on the far left of the tab object. Here, you find a sub-tab object with multiple sub-tabs. The purpose of this tab and its sub-tabs is to provide you with a quick and easy method to review information that is globally true to all our WardrobeTools applications and modules. Please refer to its separate video tutorial titled General the About tab for a detailed explanation of its sub-tabs. Next is the tab titled Item Detail. This tab is broken down into three quadrants. The top quadrant provides the primary descriptor fields for the current record, as well as its photograph. I would like to bring to your attention the small white button with the blue arrow within the storage location area. When clicked on, you are taken to the storage module where you will find all detail for that storage container. Throughout all our applications and corresponding modules, you will find these types of View Detail buttons. They all perform the same way, meaning that they will navigate you to the appropriate screen and display detailed information about the field that the button is adjacent to. The second quadrant near the bottom is home to the filter fields. The third quadrant is home to the following: images representing the items filtered, record count of the filtered records, button that generates a list of the filtered records, record navigation VCR buttons of the filtered records, and the Clear Filters button. Let me show you how the last two quadrants work together to display your inventory. The middle quadrant is home to the Filter and Select criteria fields. Beneath the Filter field quadrant is the quadrant which displays the items matching your filter criteria. First, I will select the value dresses in the Type filter field. Notice that the list displays all dresses. I will now select a value in the Person field. Now you will notice that on the right is the display of all dresses assigned to that person. Let's take this one step further. Let's select the color black in the Color filter field. If you need to examine its picture more closely, simply click on the selected item's picture and a larger image will appear. Use any or all of the filter fields in any combination to produce the needed results. The Filter and Select method is a quick way to drill down and quickly view a narrowed set of records. You can then generate a list of the record set or select an item to view its detail. I hope it is obvious that once an item has been selected from the filtered list, you can continue to select and view others as well. We always provide a Clear Filters button with all Filter and Select functionality. When clicked on, it clears the filter fields of any criteria values a user may have entered. If you have values in the filter fields, when you click the Return button of the primary tab of the toolbar, you will be asked if you want to clear those values before returning from where you came. We do this so that you can choose whether to have a clean slate or the exact same filter criteria upon your return. Again, this function works the same in all modules where you have the filter and select functionality. Please view our video tutorial titled General Filter and Select Method of Record Display for greater detail. Next is the tab More Detail. Here you find a sub-tab object with multiple sub-tabs. Each sub-tab provides supplemental descriptor fields categorically organized for easy viewing and editing of item information. Sub-tab Additional Details. These fields will vary from application to application. We consider these fields to be secondary and only relevant to certain professions and individuals. Sub-tab Secondary Colors. When you need to document secondary colors for an item, this is your one-stop shop. Check as many colors as appropriate. Sub-tab Additional Descriptions. When your item needs further descriptions, this is where you would select the values. Check as many of these descriptors as appropriate. Sub-tab Permanent Storage. Here, you can document where an item is stored on a permanent basis. Sub-tab Temporary Storage. When you move an item from its permanent storage location and need to document the temporary storage location, do so here. When you return the item to its permanent storage location, simply clear the temporary storage values. Examples of temporary storage may be a suitcase when traveling, a wardrobe case, a clothing rack when it's involved in theatrical production, or something similar. Note: building documentation is only available within Wardrobe Assistant and Wardrobe Manager. In Wardrobe Planner, you are limited to documenting storage within containers and subcontainers only. There is a separate video tutorial that covers all aspects of storage. That video tutorial is titled Module Storage and can be found in the modules grouping of these video tutorials on our support website or on our YouTube channel. Sub-tab Transactions and Quantities. This is the beginning of offering the ability to track rental or loan items and the quantity thereof. Sub-tab Barcode. Barcode numbers and graphics can be entered here, as well as the display of auto-generated barcode numbers. Sub-tab Administrative. For those of you who need to document who the item is assigned to, owned by, administered by, or designed and altered by, you can also view image metadata here. The next tab on the main tab object is Notes. Here you find a sub-tab object with multiple sub-tabs. Tab Notes, General Item, Cleaning, Problems. These are note fields that are assigned to particular subjects. Sub-tab Additional Notes. These are line item notes that you can organize by date, type, priority, status, etc. on each object. These notes can be about anything related to the current item record. Let's move to the tab Add Images. Here you find a sub-tab object with multiple tabs. Sub-tab Main Image for Item. Here, you can add the item's image or change it to another image. The Filter and Select Method of Record Display quadrant can be used for easy record navigation and selection should you need to add or change images on other items. If you are not familiar with the functions of this quadrant, please refer to our video tutorial titled General Filter and Select Method of Record Display. Sub-tab Manipulate and Set Default Size. Here, you can set the default size of the main image and thumbnail you import, or you can also scale and manipulate the main image of the current item. Subtab Additional Images. You can add additional or supplemental images to further the documentation of an item. Uses might be to show the back, side, top, bottom, or inside view of the item. Subtab Expand detail about additional images. This tab is simply an expansion of the previous tab, Additional Images, and provides the ability to add more information to each. Now, let's move to the tab Filter and Flag. This lets you filter and select records while giving you the ability to set certain record flags and then generate a list of those flagged records. Now let's move to the tab Compare. Here again, you find a subtab object with multiple subtabs. Let's take a look at subtab Items to Items. This subtab is divided into what we consider 3 quadrants. Compare Item 1 on the left, Picture Displays in the center, and Compare Item 2 on the right. The purpose of this subtab is to allow the user to compare 2 different items to the currently selected item. An example of its use would be to compare complementary types of items to the current item. For example, compare 2 pairs of shoes with a dress to see what works best. It could also be the start of pairing items for an assembly. The left quadrant is home to Compare Item 1's filter fields and the display results of its filters. The center quadrant is home to the pictures. From top to bottom, the current item's picture, followed by Compare Item 1's picture, and at the bottom, Compare Item 2's picture. The right quadrant is home to Compare Item 2's filter fields and the display result of its filters. I currently have a black dress selected as the current item. Let me show you how this works. We'll work on the left side first. I'm going to use the item type filter field to select handbags. I'm not going to filter by anything else. Now you see a list of all handbags in the items database. Clicking on the little blue arrow of any of the filtered items 1 displays a larger image of that item. You can then click on the larger image of that item to display an even larger image. Now let's look at the right quadrant. I have a separate set of filter fields. Again, I'm going to use the filter by item type and select handbags again. As with the filters on the left, you now see a list of all handbags in your items database. Clicking on the little blue arrow of any of the filtered items 2 displays a larger image of that item. You can then click on the larger image of that item to display an even larger image. We can now compare these 2 handbags to the dress for the purpose of determining any number of things, limited only by your imagination. For the purpose of this tutorial, I would also like to add a value in the filter field, Filter by Person, on the left side filters. Obviously, you don't have to choose items of the same type for comparison. Please spend a moment to think about how you might use this comparison to meet your own needs. I would also like to point out the Clear Filters button in the right and the left quadrant. Clicking on either button clears the filter fields for the respective quadrant. Let me demonstrate. Notice that when I click on the Clear Filters button within the left quadrant, the values in the filter fields disappear. Now let's move to the next subtab, Items to Assemblies. This subtab is divided into 3 quadrants. Compare Assembly 1 on the left, Picture Displays in the center, and Compare Assembly 2 on the right. The purpose of this subtab is to allow the user to select 2 different assemblies, allowing their pieces to be compared to the currently selected item. An example of its use would be to compare similar assembly pieces to the current item when updating an assembly. After selecting an assembly in Compare Assembly 1 or Compare Assembly 2, notice the clickable white buttons with blue arrows to the right and to the left of each assembly's item display. When clicked, the button on the left will display detailed information about the item. When you click on the button on the right, it will display the item's picture in the center quadrant. The next subtab is titled Items to Materials. The Items to Materials subtab is not a part of our Wardrobe Planner application. As in the subtab Items to Items, the left side quadrant filters and displays items from the Items Inventory database, while the quadrant on the right derives its values from the Materials database. For those of you who are seamstresses or theatrical costumers, you now have a method for comparing constructed items to construction materials. An example would be to choose a material for an alteration or for constructing a new item to match an existing. Again, how you use this tab is limited only by your imagination. Being that you have seen the process of filtering prior, I won't demonstrate its functionality here. The next tab is Measurements. Here again, you find a subtab object with multiple subtabs. The tab Measurements is not a part of our Wardrobe Planner application. Let's take a moment to just look at the first subtab titled Female Front Top. As you can see, there's a lot going on here, but it is very straightforward. The left side quadrant of any of these measurement subtabs displays an image of a mannequin-styled portion of the human body. The mannequin has overlaid measurement location pointers and corresponding numbers to the corresponding fields in the right quadrant. In the right quadrant, the first column titled Item Measurements are fields that hold the measurements for the currently selected item. The next column titled Assigned To are the measurement fields for the person who is assigned to the item. The next two columns titled Compare 1 and Compare 2 are measurement fields for two other selectable people. The purpose of Compare 1 and Compare 2 is to allow you to compare other people's measurements against the currently assigned person and the item's measurements. This helps with the assignment of items to people. It will also help you find other people that may fit into that item. An example would be to match costume items to multiple people who are involved in a theatrical production. Since all the rest of the subtabs for measurements are exact in function, I won't take the time to discuss each. The next tab is titled Assignments. Here again, you find a subtab object with multiple subtabs. Subtab Current Item Within Assemblies. The top left quadrant is home to the calculated name of the current item. The bottom left quadrant displays all assemblies where the current item is the primary piece. The right side quadrant is a display of all assemblies that the current item is a member of, but not the primary piece of. Let's move to the subtab Where Dates. In the Where Dates module, you assign an assembly to the where date rather than assigning individual items. Obviously, each assembly is comprised of individual items. The subtab Where Dates displays all dates that the current item was worn within an assembly. This is a self-generating display and cannot be edited. You can, however, click on any Where Date record to see its complete detail. The next subtab is titled List History. I'd like to take a moment and just talk about lists and what they are. There is a complete video tutorial that describes all aspects of the list module titled Module List Overview. So what I'm about to tell you is just a general overview about list. The term Other List is used to describe any list other than a wish list. Examples of other lists include consignment, travel, laundry, charity, or similar. These types are all created in the exact same way and are differentiated only by the list type you select. The items that comprise the list are items derived from this inventory module. This differs from the wish or buy list because its items are derived from your needs and desires and not from the inventory module. I would now like to move to the next subtab titled Alterations and Constructions. As with materials and measurements, alterations and constructions are not a part of our wardrobe planner application. There is a separate video tutorial that covers all aspects of alterations and constructions. That video tutorial is titled Module Alterations and Constructions and can be found in the module grouping of these video tutorials on our support website or on our YouTube channel. I think by this point it's easy to understand why materials, measurements, and alterations all go hand in hand and are included only in our professional applications. Let's quickly review this subtab. Since there is a complete video tutorial about the Alterations and Constructions module, what I'm about to present is merely a quick overview of the subtab's intent. The subtab Alterations and Constructions is broken down into various quadrants. All but one should be obvious to you at this point. The one which goes the entire length of the bottom of the screen displays alterations and constructions that are associated with the current item. Here, you can view all alterations and constructions associated to the current item, as well as create an alterations or construction record and begin to fill in its details. If you chose to create an alteration or construction record here, it will automatically associate it to the current item. In order to complete the documentation, you simply click on the white button with the little blue arrow adjacent to the newly created record. You are taken to the newly created record in the Alterations and Construction module where you can complete it. The large blue button titled Click here to archive original specs to alteration provides a way to historically document the original specs of the item. Thus, over time, you'll know what the item originally looked like, as well as the effects of all alterations performed. The next tab is titled Task. Here again, you find a subtab object with multiple subtabs. Task and task activities are not available in Wardrobe Planner. You have the ability to create tasks associated to a given item. If the task is complex, you can create line item activities for it. The various subtabs within the Task tab are self-explanatory. They display tasks and activities filtered by the subtab title. The next tab is Clone Many from One. Our applications are programmed to handle only unique items with photos whose file name is unique. However, there are always those situations where you will have multiple items that are exactly alike. Rather than having to create the item X amount of times and then duplicate the item's image X amount of times and then uniquely rename each, we have provided a simpler, automated method to achieve this. You might wonder who would ever need such functionality. Here are a few examples. Businessmen. They often have multiples of the same shirts, pants, or suits. Theater groups may have productions that call for 20 or 30 cast members to be on stage at the same time, all wearing the same costume. And then there are sports teams. The subtab is sectioned into 3 quadrants. The left quadrant displays information about the current record. This is the record to be cloned. Obviously, you want to fill out all necessary information about the item before you perform the clone. The middle quadrant is specific to groupings. A grouping allows you to group the cloned items under one group name and description when necessary. The quadrant on the right is where you declare how many clones need to be created, as well as the clickable button that initiates the cloning process. The next tab is titled Print Center. This tab is for everything related to printing in this item module. Let's take a look. This form is broken up into 3 main quadrants. The bottom left quadrant displays the current record item. while the remaining 2 quadrants provide many buttons that allow you to print the current item or a group of items. These buttons can print to paper or generate a PDF document that could then be emailed or transferred to a mobile device depending on your needs. Please be aware that we will be adding more and more printouts, and their corresponding print buttons will appear within the Print Center. The last tab is titled Help. Here again, you find a sub-tab object with multiple sub-tabs. Sub-tab titled Text Help. Here you will find all help topics related to the module with clickable buttons that pop up the help text for that topic. Sub-tab titled Video Help. Here you will find all help video tutorials related to the module with clickable buttons that will open up your default internet browser and play the associated video located on our YouTube channel titled WardrobeTools Software and Services. Sub-tab titled Audit Log. An audit log by definition is the documentation of changes to something. In our case, the audit log documents changes made to values on a record-by-record basis by whom within a database. What we have provided here is a very basic system to do just that. However, it requires manual data entry about each change. An automated audit log system is currently under development. It will be made available in upcoming versions of our applications when completed. Now, let's return to the Item Details tab. I want to point out a few miscellaneous functions that I've yet to talk about. I would like to bring your attention to the small white button with the blue arrow within the Storage Location area of the Item Detail tab. When clicked on, you are taken to the Storage module where you will find all detail for that storage container. Throughout all our applications and corresponding modules, you will find these types of View Detail buttons. They all perform the same way, meaning that they will navigate you to the appropriate screen and display detailed information about the field that the button is adjacent to. We understand that we have not provided detailed information about the 2 methods of creating items. That detail can be found in a separate tutorial titled Items, Import Images, and Record Creation. This video is intended solely as a general overview tutorial of the Items module. This concludes this video tutorial. We hope that you found it informative.